Hey, what's going on? Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Headliners, and we're wrapping up this week with our updated rankings. We've already taken care of quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. We've done our top 12 overall, and now we're going to jump into these tight ends here for a couple of minutes. I'm Kyle Richardson. If you're a part of Headliner Nation already, thanks so much for coming back for another episode. If you are not a part of Headliner Nation, hit that subscribe button below. Become a part of Headliner Nation today, one of the best fantasy sports communities here on YouTube. And make sure you let us know in the comments so we can personally welcome you. Also, if you enjoy the show, hit that like button. And if you have any questions or further comments on the show, use the comment section below. We're one of the most interactive channels here on YouTube. You comment or ask questions, we will respond. Let's go ahead and jump into these rankings here right now. And tight end last year, if you had the top 3 or 4 guys, you were set on a weekly basis. After that, though, things became a little interesting. So what are we going to get in 2019? Well, the top 3 are the top 3 for me. They're the best tight ends. Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, George Kittle are going to be my top 3. Travis Kelce, the one thing that I'm getting questions on about Travis Kelce right now is what happens if Tyreek Hill is suspended. I don't think anything happens with Travis Kelce. I don't think it hurts him at all. The only thing I think is it provides him the opportunity for a little bit more in terms of yards, possibly touchdowns, but I don't think it necessarily hurts him either. That offense is too good. Travis Kelce's too good. I'm not worried about it. Zach Ertz, a go-to for Carson Wentz. Hopefully that offense as a whole is healthy this year. They brought Deshaun Jackson back, which will be nice. That'll give him a deep threat to really help stretch the field. Nelson Aguilar can stretch the field a little bit as well himself. Obviously, they still have Alshon Jeffrey. That opens a lot of things in the middle for Zach Ertz, but I think the number one thing is the running game. If they can address the running game a little bit more and get themselves a running back that really helps establish an identity there, then that could be a huge asset for Zach Ertz, because it could really open up the middle of the field, draw some linebackers in. Defensive backs are obviously taking care of those wide receivers, leave them lots of room to roam in the middle of the field. And then George Kittle coming in at number 3, a breakout season last year, a huge season last year. A lot of questions about Jimmy Garoppolo coming back. What if they trade for a guy like AB? What if they trade for a guy like OBJ? What happens if all that? Well, none of that ended up happening. Dante Pettis, I really like him this season. I'm not fully giving up on Marquise Goodwin yet. Obviously, the running backs there are going to have a significant role in the passing game, but George Kittle is not disappearing for me. Even if they were to draft a wide receiver in this draft, George Kittle is still a guy that I am fully buying into. Number 4 is going to be Evan Ingram, and I had him a little bit lower a couple of weeks ago, but I dove into it a little bit more and did a couple of more things. It's hard to imagine that Evan Ingram just doesn't get the massive volume that he got a couple of years ago. The thing that concerns me is they don't have a true deep threat with the Giants right now. They have, a couple of guys in Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard that work the middle of the field. Evan Ingram is going to be the guy that's going to have to stretch it a little bit more. But I mean, because of the 2 wide receivers being guys that are going to work in the middle of the field, not really deep threats, because of Saquon Barkley, that could give the opportunity for Evan Ingram to be that guy that runs those seams up the middle and gets an opportunity if he can find some open space to have some bigger plays. But it's hard not to justify that the volume will not be there for him, so I have to move him up to number 4 based on volume alone. Number 5 after that, O.J. Howard. Really like what he could potentially do this season. That Bruce Arians offense that's going to throw the ball a lot, I think is going to be really good for O.J. Howard. Obviously, Cameron Brate, we don't need to worry about him anymore, which is good for O.J. Howard. Godwin. I'm sorry, I just spoke about him. Godwin. So with Godwin and then also with Mike Evans, they're going to probably be the main targets. They don't really have a running back at this point unless you include Ronald Jones, and I don't. So we'll see what they end up doing at that position. But O.J. Howard, I do also expect him to have a significant impact. Maybe not the same volume as the 4 guys in front of him, but definitely a lot of red zone opportunities, and definitely a guy that is going to be right in the middle of the pack in terms of tight ends this year. Coming at number 6 is Hunter Henry, and this one might be new for you. You might not understand why Hunter Henry is this high, and if you don't, that is fine. I've been a Hunter Henry fan for a long time. Rookie season, comes in, catches 8 touchdowns. Okay, this is going to be a guy that's going to be a red zone threat. His sophomore year after that drops to 4 touchdowns, 579 yards, so those yards creep up. But you have to remember that those 2 years, you had Antonio Gates there as well. Hunter Henry is not going to have to deal with that anymore. Because the tight end position is just so bland, really, when you get past some of those top options. I do think Hunter Henry has the opportunity based on red zone attempts on its own. So if he can get anywhere from that 8 to 12 type of range, I mean, imagine Hunter Henry being to the Chargers what Eric Ebron, who I have right after him, was to the Colts last year, a guy that really relied on those touchdowns to prop his value. It could end up doing that, but Hunter Henry is a really, really good tight end. It was almost ready to go at the end of last season. Didn't quite end up getting back, but he is the guy that I will 100% buy going into this year. Unfortunately, he's not quite the value that he was in drafts, but we'll hope that maybe that value continues to just slow down a little bit, and he's a really good draft day value for you. Eric Ebron is going to come in after that at number 7, and I know, okay, you might be giving me some crap right now about Eric Ebron, and it's not that I hate Eric Ebron, but the problem is we are going to, for Eric Ebron to be where he was last season, we're going to have to ask him to replicate 13 touchdowns. I don't think that's going to happen because I think Devin Funchess is going to be another added red zone target that is going to hurt Eric Ebron. I don't think I've talked about Devin Funchess already, so you go check out that video if you want to see my take on him. I don't think he's a volume guy. I think he's a red zone guy. I think he is going to help do what Eric Ebron did last year. Now, Eric Ebron, 110 targets, okay, 66 receptions, 750 yards. Again, that thing that made him a weekly play was his touchdown upside every single week. Keep in mind his 66 receptions, yeah, they were second on the team, but it was only 3 more than Nyheim Hines as well. So I have to imagine that with having Devin Funchess in the fold, that is going to cut into Eric Ebron a little bit. I still think he's a tight end 1. I'm not going to knock him as much, but also keep in mind, Jack Doyle, as we like to call him on this channel, is also going to be healthy as well. So if he can be healthy all season long, I think Eric Ebron goes from being a must start every week to more of a streaming option. Unfortunately, if you play in a 12-team league, I do think again that he could still be a tight end 1 that you play every week. I just think we temper expectations a little bit more. Vance McDonald is going to come in at number 8, and I think people are starting to catch up to Vance McDonald a little bit, especially with AB being out of town now. But with that being said, what I mentioned way back when, so on February 7th, I sent this tweet out. According to Next Gen Stats, okay, Next Generation Stats from NFL, the top 3 players in yards after catch per reception in 2018, they were all tight ends. George Kittle, Evan Ingram, Vance McDonald. George Kittle averaged 10.2 yards after catch per reception. Evan Ingram averaged 9. Vance McDonald a 7.9 after that. Jesse James, he's gone. He's no longer there, so we're not going to have to worry about him taking as many snaps away. AB is obviously gone at this point, so that's going to free up. They've made some signings. They've made some moves, though, so James Washington could have a lot bigger role as well. I think Vance McDonald, though, because he already has some of that chemistry with Ben Roethlisberger, I think he's going to be a guy that we really need to grab in our drafts this year that will offer good value, that will be a locked-in tight end 1 every week, and that is going to be a guy that is going to have a really good ceiling for us. Maybe not as good of a floor because of some fluctuations within that offense, but a good ceiling. David Njoku coming in at number 9. I had him a lot higher, but there's just going to be so much to go around, and unfortunately, I think it is going to bring him down a little bit, especially when Kareem Hunt comes back. Maybe Duke Johnson gets a little bit more work in the passing game while Kareem Hunt is suspended. David Njoku, though, I think at this point, I think his ceiling has started to dissipate, especially with the OBJ trade. So I'm not going to be buying him nearly as much as I thought, but the potential is still there for tight end 1 numbers. So I'm going to leave him as a tight end 1 for this season. Rob Gronkowski is going to come in at number 10, and we still don't know for sure whether or not he's coming back. He's not a tight end 1 anymore, but because the position is so thin when you get back towards that, 9 to 12 type area, I still think he can be a tight end 1 with his upside. Not a whole lot of red zone threats on that team right now. So Rob Gronkowski would be that guy. We'll see if they add another tight end in the draft. If they do, maybe I can become a little bit more concerned with it. But for right now, we're going to leave him right there, and we're going to play it safe with Rob Gronkowski within the top 12. Austin Hooper coming in at number 11. Austin Hooper had a breakout season last year, went really under the radar, 71 receptions, 660 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think Austin Hooper is a guy that you pair with maybe like a Chris Herndon, who I was going to have as a top 12 tight end until they brought in Bell and Crowder. But I think if you were to pair like a Hooper and a Herndon and you went back and forth with them and played some matchups, I think that would be fine. I think Hooper has enough upside in that offense, but with Julio Jones there and with Calvin Ridley as red zone target, that takes that away from him a little bit. Mohamed Sanu is really good. Devontae Freeman, if he ends up coming back and is 100% healthy, he gets part of that passing game work as well. So we'll see what happens with Austin Hooper. I think he's going to be on that fringe this season, though. And Kyle Rudolph, I'm going to put in at tight end 12. I had him a lot higher last year. I'll admit, I think I had him at tight end 4 at one point. I really thought that marriage with Kirk Cousins was going to work out a lot better than what it did in year one. But with that being said, I have hope for year two. There's a little bit of a growing process. I think we're the new offensive crew that they have in there to put together a better game plan. I think will be a lot better. I think if they can really get Dalvin Cook going all season long, I think that will be key. You already have Stephon Diggs. You have Adam Thielen. There should be plenty of opportunities for Kyle Rudolph. It's just not going to be one of those things where he offers you a great weekly upside every single week. I think it's more of matchups. I think it's a guy that could end up being safe, maybe offers you, maybe 2 to 4 catches per game, maybe anywhere from 30 to 60 yards per game, something like that. Not a whole lot of touchdowns, but I think he has an opportunity to sneak into the top 12 tight ends. Again, you get to the bottom there and it really becomes thin. So any one of these guys could end up making their way. And then obviously Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson coming in the draft, Irv Smith Jr., those guys, I mean, if they land in really good situations, we could see them as tight end ones this year as well. Again, thanks so much for tuning into this episode, breaking down the top 12 tight ends. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, all of that good stuff. Make sure, though, you check out the rest of our rankings that we did so you can see where we stand on all of these players right now. More updated ranks will come out after the draft. Keep in touch here. Keep in tune on this channel for all of your updated information for fantasy football and fantasy baseball. Thanks again. Appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next show.